Mr. Toastmaster, my fellow Toastmasters, fellow scientists, and welcome guests, good morning.
Good morning.
As you may have guessed from the title of my speech, I'm going to be talking about scientists. And why should I talk about scientists? Well, for one thing, I'm a scientist. But what is a scientist? And it's funny, when people ask me what I do for a living and I say, I'm a scientist, I can see that moment in their eyes when they're visualizing a guy dressed up in a lab coat with mad scientist hair, mixing chemicals together, smoke coming out, foaming out all over the place, or flipping a switch and a monster comes alive and he lets out a wild laughter. Ha 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 ha! No. A scientist, and I have a definition for you, a scientist is a person who studies or practices any of the sciences, or who uses scientific methods. And today I'm going to share with you some amazing new achievements that scientists have made in the past few years. And then I'm going to share with you the method that they use to make these amazing achievements. But before I go on, I want to know if there are any scientists in the room. If you're a scientist, say, I'm a scientist. I'm a scientist. Hopefully at the end of my speech, some of you who didn't raise your hand will reconsider and say, wait a minute, I'm a scientist too. Scientists are responsible for some amazing new achievements. The first one I want to share with you has to do with cell phones. May I? How many of you have cell phones? Smartphones, computers, laptops, iPads, iPods. Most of us, correct? These are amazing devices. Problem is that they're made from materials called rare earth metals. And rare earth metals are found deep in the ground in one part of the world only. And according to CNN.com, they're going to be getting harder and harder to source. It's going to be more expensive to get these materials. But these two scientists came up with this amazing invention. It's called graphene. And this is a picture of graphene. What graphene is carbon atoms. And an atom is the smallest amount of matter you can have, and you need a microscope to look at it. But if you join them together in sheets, like the picture here, if you have a sheet of these graphene that's the same size as the sheet of paper, it's 20,000 times thinner than the sheet of paper, and it's 300 times lighter, but it's 200 times stronger than structural steel. And it's made up of carbon, and carbon is the same material that you have in the graphite in your pencil lead. It's soft, you can write with it. But carbon is also the same material that makes up diamonds, and diamonds are the hardest natural substance on Earth. So if you were to make up your cell phone from graphene, it would be lighter, it would be thinner, and it would be cheaper to make because carbon is a lot cheaper than rare earth metals. Pretty amazing. The second achievement that scientists have made I want to talk about has to do with the weather. And these scientists in a place called Abu Dhabi in the Middle East, in the desert, where it doesn't rain a lot, they found a way to make it rain in the summer when it doesn't rain at all. And how they've done this is they built these tall structures that resemble lampshades, and these structures send out electricity, negatively charged particles into the air. And the hot air from the desert makes the particles rise up and brings the dust with them. And the dust collects around the particles, and moisture from the air condenses around the particles and makes clouds. And these clouds make it rain. Pretty amazing. They've been able to make it rain 50 times a year for the past few years. That's pretty amazing that you can make it rain in the desert whenever you want. Well, now I've shared with you these amazing achievements that scientists have done. And now I want to share with you the methods that they used. And it doesn't matter what kind of science it is. They all use the same method. And you don't need fancy equipment, and you don't need an advanced degree. All you need to be a scientist is curiosity, to make an observation about your world. In my cell phone example, you say, my cell phone is useful, but it's kind of heavy in my pocket. Okay? Here at Toastmasters, you say, well, I'm not such a very good public speaker. That's it. The next step is you ask a question about that observation. You say, I wonder if I can make a cell phone lighter. I wonder if I can make it less expensive. For Toastmasters, you say, I wonder if I can learn to be a better public speaker. The third step is to propose an answer about your question, to make a prediction. For cell phones, you say, if I make a material as hard as diamonds, like graphene, will this cell phone be more useful? Will it be cheaper? You make a prediction. I'm going to join Toastmasters, and I'm going to learn to become a better speaker. The fourth step is to experiment, to test it for yourself. For our cell phone experiment, you say, well, I'm going to take the graphite from the pencil, shave off a little bit, and like you make diamonds in the earth, I'm going to use high temperature and pressure to make some graphene and see how it will work. For Toastmasters, it's easy. You come to your meeting, you give speeches and evaluations, and you see if you get better. The fifth step, evaluate that data. Be honest with yourself. Did I make enough good enough graphene? Did I make it cheap enough? For Toastmasters, you say, did my speech evaluator say that I met all my speech objectives? The sixth step, you make a conclusion from that data, from that evaluation, and you say, well, I made graphene, but it was too expensive. For Toastmasters, you say, well, I became a better public speaker after giving only my first 3 speeches. The final step, based on that conclusion, you say, well, the graphene that I made, I need to find another process that's cheaper to make graphene. You go back to the drawing board, or you find another problem. I wonder if I can be a better public speaker if I continue to give speeches, if I continue to come to Toastmasters, and I wonder if I can help other people be better public speakers. The scientific method. Scientists use this, and it's simply a way to experience the world, to ask questions, test it out for yourself. And it starts with curiosity. And all of you here had curiosity when you first stepped into that door at Toastmasters. Keep asking those questions, because in my book, in my analysis, you're all scientists. This is Toastmasters.